are not actually refuting anything that I'm saying, but they're using labels. So now the latest label is to say that Hancock's theories support racism and white supremacy.
I couldn't believe that when I read that.
I couldn't believe it either. And again, I have to say I'm a human being with feelings. I'm married to a woman of color. I have 4 mixed-race children. I have 7 mixed-race grandchildren. To be accused in public platforms of promoting racism and white supremacy gets me right in the heart, especially when it's based on a completely flimsy and non-existent argument. So what it comes down to is that in Fingerprints of the Gods, I report back in 1995, I reported a number of indigenous traditions. Those traditions were recorded by Spaniards in Mexico and in Peru in South America shortly after the conquest. They're part of the earliest documentation that we have. And in those traditions there were frequent references to a white-skinned, bearded figure. In South America he's called Viracocha, and in Mexico he's called Quetzalcoatl. And I simply reported those traditions as they had been passed down to us from the indigenous people, translated by Spanish interpreters and then passed down into tradition. The argument of archaeologists is that by reporting those traditions, I am supporting white supremacy. To me, that argument, they're simply dismissing the local traditions. They're right. In a way, it's they who are being racist by denying these traditions, and they seem to be going back to try to rewrite the past. So the movement now, the argument now amongst archaeologists is to claim that all of those traditions were interfered with by the Spaniards, that it served the Spaniards' interests, that the bearded civilizing figure should also have a white skin. But I find no evidence for that whatsoever. I find lots of archaeologists arguing that and saying, we think this is what happened, but I don't find any facts. So I will stick with indigenous traditions that were recorded within 20 years of the conquest by major figures like Bernardino de Sahagún, who's regarded as an absolutely authentic, authoritative commentator working with indigenous peoples in Mexico right after the conquest. He reports these traditions of the white-skinned, bearded civilizer. And I'm simply passing that on to my readers. And archaeologists may wish to say that those traditions were modified by the Spaniards. They're welcome to say that, but they haven't proved it. And until it's proved, I would prefer to stick with the authenticity of the indigenous traditions, and that's what I've reported. But the funny thing is that in Ancient Apocalypse, I don't mention anything about race at all. Race is not mentioned in any way. To me, I've never understood the racist mentality. It's been my privilege and my opportunity to travel the world for almost all of my working life and to live amongst different communities of people all around the world. And what I find is that people are the same everywhere. The skin color is the least important aspect of a human being. People are the same everywhere, heart and soul, the same hopes, the same dreams, the same fears, the same ambitions. It doesn't matter if you're amongst hunter-gatherers in the Namibian desert or in the Amazon rainforest or if you're in the middle of a big city. We're all basically the same. What unites us is far greater than what divides us. And a point I often make is, why do we regard skin color as important? What is the reason for this? Skin is a large physical organ. It's supposedly the largest organ in the body. Why don't we concentrate on another large organ? Let's look at the colon, for example. Would it be rational to divide people up according to the length of their colon? You know, if you've got a colon that's half an inch shorter than somebody else's, somehow you're less advanced or less superior than them. It's a ridiculous idea to take a physical characteristic and use that as the prime definition of a human being. I think that the issue of race is fundamentally a deeply unimportant issue in this area. What we need to be doing as a human species is moving forward and realizing what unites us, our similarities. At the level of DNA, we're all incredibly closely related, but at the level of being human creatures, we're all incredibly closely related as well. And it's a false dilemma to impose race on this. Let's focus on the human creature.
Does it show you how desperate they are, the more ridiculous these claims become?
I think it does. I think it's a desperate strategy by archaeologists. So we didn't succeed in turning people off his work by calling him a pseudo-archaeologist or a pseudo-scientist. Clearly we didn't succeed in turning people off his work because he's got this Netflix show. So what can we do to turn people off his work? Oh, let's call him a racist and a white supremacist. You know, let's look at a couple of indigenous traditions that he reported 20 years ago, and let's say that on the basis of that, Hancock is a racist and a white supremacist. It's a cheap trick. It's a low blow, but that's what I've come to expect in this field. And it's odd the way that this story about the past is getting co-opted by modern American culture wars. Which is completely unnecessary. I've heard even accounts of archaeologists now who will not sex the skeletal remains of human beings who they excavate in ancient sites. They will no longer commit to saying this is a man or a woman because that might be sexist. You know, this for this kind of dialogue to enter into the archaeological field where we start using our particular modern perception, a relatively recent one, and we want to impose it on the past and we want to rewrite the past so that it fits with how we think should be today. That's a mistake. The past should be allowed to speak for itself. And when the past speaks for itself, it's beautiful, it's clear, it's open, and it tells the truth.
The greedy bankers are about to do it again. In 2008, they crashed our financial system and nearly bankrupted the entire global economy. Then they received trillions of dollars in government bailouts. And after, they demanded fat bonuses paid for by you, the taxpayer.
It turns out the banks haven't just been screwing the American taxpayers, they're also screwing over their investors. Turns out the banking industry is the worst place you could put your money, despite enormous taxpayer bailouts.
Now the bankers are back to take away your financial freedom. They lie and tell you that cryptocurrency isn't safe. They try to make it illegal for you to choose how to invest your hard-earned money. They lie and say cryptocurrency is used by money launderers and criminals. But look at the record. It's the banks themselves that launder hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the biggest criminal operations in the world.
Leaked documents have revealed how some UK banks have helped criminals, money launderers and Russians under sanctions.
American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
The bankers lie and say cryptocurrency is not a real investment. Meanwhile, the smartest CEOs in the world are buying billions and billions of it. The truth is that banks lie about cryptocurrency because it makes them scared. The banks take $9 trillion per year of your hard-earned money, and they are worried that they will finally be exposed. They're scared because crypto means they can no longer control your money, which means they can no longer control you. They are scared because you might actually understand your money and intelligently decide what to do with it. Now is the time for us to come together, fight back, and take control. It's time to educate ourselves, our families, and our communities. Because financial education means financial freedom. We know that cryptocurrencies will help us build the new decentralized financial system of the future. A banking system that is of the people, by the people, and for the people. A banking system where access to finance is a fundamental human right. A banking system that is free and fair and welcomes all humans on this earth. The DeFi revolution is happening. We, the people, can no longer be fooled. We choose to take control of our finances. We choose to take control of our freedom. We choose to take control of our future. Join us, and let's take back our financial freedom forever.